Agreed to let some 200 Americans and Afghan nationals depart Kabul airport.
This comes after the White House not to allow charter flights to land at U.S. military bases.
Just hours from now, President Biden will address the nation on his COVID-19 response plan.
The Biden administration is sowing a lot of mistrust. The reality is that the FDA and CDC have dramatically fallen away from science.
The White House defending President Biden's move to boot all military academy board members appointed by Donald Trump.
It is sad to see, and this is one of the last spaces where we don't have a politicization of anything. Can we keep it out?
A video showing a woman throwing an egg at Republican frontrunner Larry Elder.
If this was on the other side, a white woman wearing a monkey mask threw an egg at a black Democratic candidate, this would be wall-to-wall coverage.
It is my honor, Derek, to welcome you into the Hall of Fame family.
I had one goal during my career. That was to win more than everyone else. We did.
Good morning, Dallas, Texas. It is 7 o'clock out there. Sally Ducey, this is your wake-up call. You gotta go to work in 1 hour. Also a wake-up call to my cousin, Mike Ducey, the sports anchor on Fox 4 Dallas. Mike, you've got to go to work in 8 hours. I'm just getting you
Pastor
really
Jeffress,
early,
Lisa Henderson. Who are your friends
Well,
in Dallas?
I'm not related to them.
Yeah,
I'm related to those two.
Yeah, Mark Cuban, he counts on us to wake him up. I'm sure he's watching right now.
He works out at Sally's Club.
Really?
Yeah.
With a shirt on?
I hope so.
All right. I'm just saying he's a
No one takes their shirt off at the gym unless they're in the locker room. You work out without your shirt at the
it
gym?
creates a bit of an uproar.
I don't think so. I think that'd be the cover of Us magazine.
That'll get me on the cover. That'll be fantastic.
Anyway, welcome aboard, folks. It's the final hour of Fox and Friends for this Thursday.
All right, in 3 seconds, it'll be 10 seconds and 2 minutes after 8.
Okay, he needs it's 8:02 right now.
Yeah, in just 2 hours, 200 stranded Americans, we think, and other civilians are expected to, they say Westerners are expected to leave Afghanistan on charter flights.
The Taliban finally yesterday decided to allow them to leave on the first passenger flight since the chaotic troop withdrawal last month.
And Mark Meredith joins us live from the White House with the latest for us. Hey, Mark.
Ainsley, Steve, and Brian, good morning to all of you guys. That's right, we are getting reports that some Westerners are going to be allowed to leave Afghanistan. The number's been shifting a little bit. We're hearing between 100 and 150. There was 200 earlier this morning. That was the report. But we're still waiting to get a better idea of who's going to be leaving and how many Americans will be on that list and whether or not we're going to see more flights going forward. A spokesperson in Qatar this morning was saying that they believe the people leaving all had valid documents and that this was more of a free movement of foreign and local passengers, and that they believe more flights will be getting to go out tomorrow. The White House is still facing a lot of pressure, even from some Democrats, to ensure Americans in Afghanistan can still leave. My colleague Peter Ducey, he asked yesterday, with terror suspects now running the Afghan government, how the U.S. can ensure those same Americans can get out.
What we're working to do is to engage with them because they oversee and control Afghanistan right now to get American citizens, legal permanent residents, SIV applicants out of Afghanistan. We have to engage with them.
So we know next week that the Secretary of State, he's going to be testifying before Congress on all things Afghanistan, but some lawmakers say they are worried right now about pressing national security matters when they've been getting reports so many Afghan evacuees are leaving the holding facilities they have right here in the United States.
They're letting them leave. They can catch an Uber and actually leave the base. They don't know exactly how many are even there, so they can't account for someone if they don't return.
There's also a bizarre story coming out of Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, where the man who's behind bars for killing 14 people at Fort Hood in 2009, he is writing a letter in which he is congratulating the Taliban for retaking control of Afghanistan. So obviously there's been a lot of concerns about what the Taliban regaining control could mean for those that sympathize with their movement, and obviously we have this story coming out of Kansas with the sympathizer behind bars for killing so many people.
Yeah, he asked his attorney to hand that letter to the top Taliban leadership. The attorney says while Major Hassan has not changed his opinions about the Taliban, it would appear President Biden has done a complete about-face.
Right. Mark, thank you very much.
100% right.
Apparently those people who are going to be allowed to fly out, they will be leaving on a Qatar Airways flight. And apparently this is going to be the first flight out of Kabul airport since Afghanistan fell.
Yeah, they have tickets and everything.
They've got tickets, they've got boarding passes. It sounds like this was predestined. Although, see, there was such a 180 yesterday because we had heard they're going to be allowing the Taliban was going to be letting people out yesterday. Then it's like, okay, the Taliban just announced, according to Tony Blinken, they're not going to allow anybody out, which should not surprise us because our partners in this are terrorists. Now it's been revealed that apparently those people who had the tickets on the airline will leave. We have no idea what's going to happen to those people with those 6 charter jets up north of Kabul in Mazar-e-Sharif. We don't know when they're ever going to get to leave. We just know that the White House said a couple of weeks ago there's nobody stranded, although it sure looks like they're stranded.
Jen Psaki said we don't have a role in preventing flights from taking off. We are not on the ground. Anthony Blinken, without personnel on the ground, we can't verify the accuracy of the manifest of who's actually on these planes. Here's another concern. Those planes, where are they going? What if there are terrorists on those planes? Then they can easily go over to Mexico and come through our southern border if they're not allowed to come to America. What about the people that are already here in America? Some people are saying they're vetted. State Department's saying they're vetted, but then you have others who are worried that they're not, like Mark Green. You heard they're taking Ubers. President Trump says our country has never been more unsafe. He sat down with Greg. Listen to this.
Now we're at a time where, okay, there are no more mean tweets, and we have a really nice president, and the country is in the crapper. So who would you rather have?
Well, I don't know that he's a nice president. I'm not sure about that. But I can tell you the country has never been more unsafe. We have people pouring in through our southern border, which everyone's forgetting about right now because of the travesty of Afghanistan. And if you look at the people coming in by the hundreds, by the thousands, and these are not the people necessarily that wanted the protection.
Right.
These are people. So are they terrorists? How many terrorists are coming in? And they were aggressive, very aggressive at the plane, and they pushed their ways up, their way onto the plane.
So the other big story, they pushed their way on the plane and everyone says, well, I don't want the private flights to go out because we're not sure who's on them. We told you, you got Navy SEALs, you have elite Marines working out to get 25 Americans, 19 SIVs on there. I'm concerned about that. But now, it's just too much of a risk according to the State Department. But those 122,000 that you got through Kabul airport because the Taliban, providing your security in your great plan, allowed them through, those people are secure. But the ones our special operators are doing on the side for free, using private donations, those are the ones you're worried about. Keep in mind when it comes to these refugees, too, that everyone's concerned about. You got 30,000 who are now in the U.S. already, right? You got 10,000 of those who underwent additional screening. 100 are under review, so we put them over to Kosovo. That maybe could be happening. Maybe you could cooperate and find a country that would allow them to maybe park the plane in a while so you can go in and use your iris technology to find out exactly who they are. But I think it's also important to know how much this is costing America. President Biden came out and says it's time for us to stop writing checks, use our resources other places. Please tell me when we can stop writing checks, because right now the president's asking for $6.4 million, $2.4 billion for defense to help resettlement, $1.3 billion for individuals, $816 million as agencies for international development, $193 million for citizenship and immigration services. These are for the Afghans, many of which aren't even SIVs, that have landed on our military bases who we don't know. $1.7 billion to HHS. They've done such a great job, HHS, with giving them additional money. On top of that, there are at least 500 unaccompanied minors that are here. And we are great at raising children. We've already raised so many thousands of unaccompanied minors who have come through our southern border. Maybe they'll play with our new unaccompanied minors from Afghanistan, and they can be babysit by the illegals who are still waiting to be processed, all at our military bases.
Talking about money, after 9/11, we go to Afghanistan. We try to get the Taliban out. We're successful. We spend $1 billion. That's the smallest number I've heard. Some people are saying $2-3 billion. So if we spend $1 billion for what? The Taliban now has overrun the country again, and we're back to square one.
And they have our equipment.
Exactly.
Of $85 billion worth of equipment.
Well, that's why it's a public relations disaster, and that is why the administration wants to put Afghanistan in our rearview mirror as a country and focus on something that Joe Biden is good at. And according to the public relations polls, his highest number is on COVID. So later today, he's going to unveil a 6-point COVID plan. You'll see it live at 5 o'clock here on the Fox News channel. Apparently he's going to put pressure on businesses and government entities to make sure you've got a vaccine mandate. Just make sure everybody gets a shot or they can't come to work, and also schools. The 6-point plan, it sounds like the plan is to get more people vaccinated, increase testing, require masks. There will be economic recovery and improving care for those with COVID. The economic recovery is interesting. It sounds like the administration, if this report is true, wants more money, and that is separate from the infrastructure that is not really infrastructure. So this afternoon, it sounds like Joe's going to ask for more dough.
So more money for refugee, more money for the shots, more money for boosters, more money for resettlement of Afghans.
Just
spending,
more money.
spending.
So he says, I want to keep schools open. He's going to tell everyone to wear a mask. He's going to ask for a booster shot. The problem is the WHO says, don't do that.
Because they want other shots to go around the world.
Well, they also say they're not sure that study's been done that we actually need them. It looks like he had to bust in and try to change the subject. We didn't buy it. Last Wednesday at about 12 o'clock, he had to make the announcement that we're thinking about boosters. Now, Israel's up to 4 boosters. Others haven't even gotten their first vaccine. Others have ineffective vaccines. But the President of the United States says, get a vaccine, you have no problem. Now he's saying, get a vaccine, you might have a problem. Now he's saying, we're going to give you a booster, you probably won't have a problem. And then we got this other thing. He's trying to tackle the Delta variant. It came here in June. Thanks for getting around to it. I guess you had a busy summer. Next, he's going to tell us about the MU or MU. The MU variant on top of that? Can someone get ahead of anything?
For all of this, we want to look to our doctors, and you've probably talked to your doctors about this. But the president, it seems like, or the administration, it seems like, is getting a lot of information or getting forced to do certain things, getting squeezed by these teachers' unions. And so are they listening to those teachers' unions to tell us what we need to do, or are they listening to the doctors and to the experts? On May 13th, the CDC comes out and says Americans do not need masks inside or outside if they've been vaccinated. We were jumping for joy. Well, then the very next day, National Educators Association sent the CDC an email. They said, we need clarification.
Right.
Or we need clarification from the CDC. They sent the email to the White House.
Because the teachers' unions wanted to make sure that everybody was wearing a mask. The teachers' unions, it sounded like, was iffy whether or not we'd even go back to school this fall. So anyway, we're going to show you some of the back and forth between the White House and the teachers' unions, where it sure looks, well, it looks exactly like the NEA is influencing American public policy, just as the teachers' union did a couple of months ago when it came to reopenings. The White House Director of Labor Engagement emailed to the CDC, hey, this was on May 14th. Would you know when Dr. Walensky would be able to call NEA Association President Becky Pringle? They've gotten significant incoming and are getting targeted for a response from the media. I've gotten them to hold on their statement calling for clarification. So the White House is reaching out to the NEA saying, hey, you want to help us with this? What would you say? That's essentially what this is, a solicitation. What would the NEA like us to say to these press inquiries?
So on that very same day, the NEA draft statement that was sent to Erica Dingle-Smith, it says, releasing the guidance without accompanying school-related updates creates confusion and fuels the internal politicization of this basic health and safety issue. We need CDC clarification right away.
All right, so the CDC basically says, what do you want me to say? And here's what they said on the 15th. CDC recommends school continue to use the current COVID-19 prevention strategies for 2021 school year. CDC's K-12 operational strategy presents a pathway for schools to provide in-person instruction safely through the persistent and consistent use of prevention strategies, including universal and correct use of masks and physical distancing. All schools should implement and layer prevention strategies and should prioritize universal and correct use of masks and physical distancing. So what they're saying is, you know that good news we told you on May 13th to America when you don't have to use a mask outside because it doesn't do any good, and that the virus has got to a point where you can go back to life as it was? That wasn't good enough for our schools, so they choreographed what exactly they want the scientists of the CDC to say to the teachers.
Which was wear a mask in school even if you are or are not vaccinated.
Teachers union, put schools second.
So in other words, the White House wanted to know what the NEA wanted them to do, and the White House said, you know, essentially it was how high do you want us to jump? And so they jumped because the NEA wanted them to
This is why there's so much
clarify
confusion.
what
This
was
is why
going-
people are scared. This is why so many people don't want to take the vaccine, because they're wondering, is the administration giving us advice based on doctors or based on politics or based on money from the school unions?
And it looks like everything, all of the above. Meanwhile, we know that Gavin Newsom has had some of the most restrictive